When it comes to SaaS marketing, Outbound absolutely crushes inbound. And I'm going to tell you 10 reasons why that's the case. Number one, outbound marketing is cheap. A lot of people will probably try to convince you that inbound marketing is cheap. That's because all you need to do is create content. You write the content generates traffic, the traffic generates customers. The problem here is nobody's actually quantifying the cost and comparing it to outbound. The true cost is actually quite expensive. A blog post could cost $500. An ebook might cost $2,000 of internal labor to produce. There's the editing, there's the involvement of senior management to put an input into all of these assets. So the cost gets very high. And the cost of outbound marketing is actually grossly overestimated because people are still thinking of outbound marketing in the traditional advertising sense where you're spending millions of dollars on TV ads. You don't need to do that anymore. I've run video advertising on Facebook that generated views for 1 cent each. I've run similar types of video advertising on LinkedIn for just 4 cents each. It's very, very cost effective to do outbound marketing if you do it appropriately. Also, consider email. Yes, there's some fixed cost in the beginning when you invest in a program like Lemlist or Mailshake. Yes, you have to set up some email sequences, but the marginal cost of delivery is virtually nothing. So outbound is very cost effective. The other key advantage with outbound is that it's extremely fast. You can be up and running within minutes, or more realistically, perhaps with feedback and input, days to get approval from something like Facebook advertising. Now, with inbound marketing, often what you're doing is you're investing in assets, content assets that may not generate ranking results until 3 months. So to be ROI positive, it may be not until the following year that you're actually generating serious results. So that's probably one of the single biggest reasons you should be doing outbound marketing, is to get fast results. Number 3, with outbound marketing, you can reach your entire TAM virtually, your entire total addressable market. You can identify the exact people, all the potential buyers for your product using something like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Apollo, you could use list builders. There's all different ways you can get access to your TAM. And then what you can do is you can bombard everybody in your target market with messages. It's not really possible to do that with inbound. With inbound, you are severely limited by people that are actively looking for solutions. And if we take a general rule of thumb, 95% of business-to-business buyers are not actively looking for a solution. So you're severely limiting the amount of exposure that your SaaS product can have if you're relying solely or predominantly on inbound channels. Now, what I say with SaaS marketing, my general philosophy is you either go big or you go back to selling services. So if you want to go big, if you want to scale, which is what SaaS wants to do, it's what it lives for, you really should be looking at outbound marketing. And I think the reason that a lot of SaaS companies, only a tiny sliver actually get venture capital, but the vast majority don't, is because they're not thinking big enough. And when you start thinking in terms of outbound, what happens is you're immediately thinking of distribution, and you're immediately thinking of how to access the entire market. Whereas with inbound, you don't often think of distribution first, you think of content first, and then kind of hope that it generates the traffic and the distribution that you want. Now, the other key thing related to this total addressable market is that outbound channels are fundamentally more scalable. Email, advertising, direct mail, all of these can essentially be scaled to the size of your market. Inbound can't do that. So what ends up happening with inbound is you basically become addicted to cranking out more and more content. So the economies of scale that are supposed to be realized from investing in content assets often isn't. You just end up needing to produce more and more. With outbound, you don't need to do that. Yes, you need a few key critical pieces of content, such as a case study, but you can scale that case study to as many people as you want at the reach and frequency that you want. Much, much more scalable. The other key advantage is that outbound is less risky. Inbound marketing is often kind of like gambling. Not always, but often it is. So what you're doing is you're investing a lot of time and resources into certain assets, and you're hoping they get distribution, you're hoping they get consumed. And yes, you have some control over that. You're optimizing for keywords, etc. But there's really no guarantees. With outbound, you're pretty much guaranteed to reach your entire market. So the risk is minimized in addition to time. So the time with which you can reach those people and actually see what the risk potential is much, much faster. The other key thing with outbound is that it focuses you on the right metrics. So one of the challenges with inbound is the time delays. There's a serious time delay between when you invest in content and when you're able to realize revenue or some sort of hard metrics from those content. With outbound, because you're kind of force-feeding content to the market at a fast pace, at a controllable pace, what you're able to do is optimize for the right metrics that are deeper down in the funnel, things like pipeline revenue. It's very, very hard to do that when you're doing inbound marketing. The other thing with outbound is that it focuses you on what you do best. What you do best is produce software that can be scaled to numerous customers. The problem with inbound is what ends up happening is your company ends up focusing on journalism. So you're essentially converting yourself into a media company that is continually investing in content assets, rather than where I believe you should be focusing most of your time, which is investing in software assets and getting your economies of scale from the software rather than from the content marketing. So you're kind of splitting your strategic focus from software, which is the product-centric side, to the media side, which is not the kind of business you want to be in. It's a very competitive business with lots of key influencers, entertainers, established journalistic entities. You don't want to compete in that space. I suggest focusing on the product and using outbound marketing to drive demand quickly and effectively. Number 8, outbound marketing gives you more control. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you consider Google advertising an inbound channel, which you can make a strong argument for that, yes, you have a lot of control. You can control the keywords, you can pause and edit things, but generally speaking, inbound is far less controllable. With outbound, I can pause a campaign, I can edit campaigns, I can do that when I want, to the extent that I want. I have way more control. The other thing that transcends from this is that you can be more agile. So this is aligned very well with how startup SaaS companies are. There's an agile mindset. We don't really know what the market wants. Our positioning may be unclear in the beginning, but if we run tests quickly, we're able to get market feedback and adjust accordingly. So for example, with outbound marketing, I could test an entire sequence, which brings me to point number 10. Outbound marketing, more testable, okay? I can test an entire marketing funnel with outbound marketing and optimize based on those funnels. Very, very difficult to do that with inbound. Often what inbound does is it forces you to test only ad hoc elements within marketing funnels. So things like the landing page. But when we're thinking about big and scaling software to a large extent, really we need to be thinking more in terms of macro tests and less in terms of these nitty-gritty A/B tests. So all of that said, a lot of SaaS companies fail with outbound. And there are numerous reasons for this, but I just want to highlight one of them. One of the key reasons is that their outbound marketing campaigns are focused on the bottom of the funnel too much. All it is trying to get people into a 15-minute conversation or a 30-minute meeting, trying to book the demo. That's not a very sophisticated way to approach outbound marketing. Outbound marketing, you need to think of the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel. You need to think of nurturing flows. All of this can be automated. It can all be done cost effectively. No reason you shouldn't be doing that. Now, that said, I've listed 10 key reasons why I believe outbound marketing is generally better than inbound marketing. There are cases with some SaaS companies where inbound marketing is probably where you're going to invest the majority of your marketing budget. What are those cases? Well, generally it's when you're selling a very tactical SaaS product, so it's not a strategic purchase, it's a non-strategic purchase, and where it's really only important at key trigger events. So there's some sort of event that happened with the buyer where they suddenly have a need for your product, they go and they search for it. So in cases like that, yes, inbound marketing is where you should be focusing because they're not going to be very receptive to an outbound message for something that's not important to them except at those key junctures.